I think it's sharing now. That means you should talk, make it casual. It's not a presentation. I have a few things I wanted to share.
Uh,
So feel free to ask your questions. Yeah. And I got my tea.
Thank you.
Okay, you can hear me loud and clear, can't you?
Yeah.
Right. Ooh, it's not very clear. Okay, so it's the 9th of September. And oh, someone's just joined in. I did say I wanted to, oh, that's my good friend from school. So I wanted to talk about the state of the market. Okay, so the first thing first is the fact that, so I'm just quickly going to do a quick general state of the market. So as at today, we've got a general market slowdown. There's a general slowing growth amid persistent inflation, heightened policy uncertainty. That's on the macro side. So the US indexes have literally finished, higher and breaking recent highs, fueled by the hopes of interest rate cuts, which I think is probably in about the next 9 days or so. But however, we have a weaker than expected labor data, which came up last week. Major economies are facing challenges, including the cooling labor markets in the US and the drag of trade tensions globally. So that's the general state of the market. If you're going to look at the US economic and market summary, I think we've got the labor market, which is definitely slowing down. Again, I think the last economic data did talk about there's a weaker jobs were created, which I think is the lowest or the highest job were created as lower as 2009, I think it was. And then unemployment rates as well ticked up 4.3% in August, which is the highest since 2021. So this thing's been tickling off. Then speaking of the markets as well, we've got the S&P, which has been closing high and high. We had a short 4-day participation last week, but this thing has been ticking higher. Apple has been a consistent underperformer until recently when things moved up heavily. And likewise, Alphabet, Google. I think Google has been held down by the European Commission's, which we're talking about the monopoly. As a result, there's pressure over if they're going to have to sell Chrome, but fortunately, they do not have to. And then, of course, we saw the impacts last week. It was a huge 9%, 8% gap up on Friday. But unfortunately, there are still inflation concerns. The IMF predicts that inflation will fall generally to 2%, which is the target for everyone. But right now, we have 2.9% as of September, which is still what we've got. I think in European Union, there's been definitely been able to get to the target, but being the base market, which is United States, things are still a bit desperate. Then, and of course, it's a bit different from what people are seeing out there on the field. But again, talk about the VCs, which is the IPO market. The IPO market has been extremely hot. However, which is actually a huge driving force for the VC market. But one thing you've got to understand, and we can look at a few of them, they have been consistent on the performance again. We're talking about from the bullish to CoreWeave to IRO. I think these are very hot IPO markets anyway. We have a few which is still coming on, but I'm going to share my screen and we should have a look at some of them, how they have been behaved over the last few weeks or months, if I can say. So we won't have much data, but we should be able to see them consistently be underperforming. Maybe I should just tell the guys that we've started actually. Otherwise, it'll be unfair. Oh, they're coming in now. Okay, so let me just tell the guys on the community that we are starting. I didn't want to say it before, but I don't think it's fair. Let me send a reminder that we are started. This started a few minutes ago. Okay, now, so just been talking about the general state of the market, and now the next thing I want to talk about is, hi Elsie, the next thing I want to talk about is the IPO market. Just giving a quick, brief summary. The market, the macros, of course, which directs the micros. But so speaking of the macros, the market is definitely weakening. Now we're looking at, and then I'm talking about the IPOs right now. So speaking of IPOs, I think IPOs, all of them have been persistently started very high. But if you're going to look at a few of them, we will be talking about, let me just get rid of these things here. So talking about number one, a few of them. So, bullish is one, BLSN, and how has it behaved since when, since it came to the market. If you're going to look, pull it down, you can see all these things. They just did a huge gap down and it's been a disaster. Then we have CoreWeave, which of course behaved a little bit today, but generally, from the lows, I think when it got released to the public, and it's been, bad performer. Then we have, we have Bull as well, which is Webull. Webull also, it's not been much to write home about really. So, if you look at the general IPO market, things have been generally down as well. So I think, like I said, this is just a general consistent weakening of the labor market. So what was this key driving things? I think we should be looking at, we've just been talking about inflation, which has been, there's been fears of inflation. Yes, while the government is consistently trying to fight inflation, but if you look at the DXY, which is the dollar, the dollar has actually been consistently down. So which is, which is pushing things down. So when dollar is down, of course, the market's going to be up. So now with the dollar down, this is good news for investors, but we as investors and traders, we need to be able to know when should we make our way in. Okay. Sorry, some people are coming in as well. So okay, so we need to know when should we make our way in. So yeah, again, the dollar's been consistently down. I think Donald Trump did say he likes a weak dollar. When you have a weak dollar, you have a weak oil, then of course you will get a great market for the people. But unfortunately, lower oil, it helps fuel growth. But again, when there's not much demand for oil, it's like a catch-22 phrase, really. When there's not a demand for oil, you don't expect to get growth. But at the same time, low oil helps fuel productivity because, but it depends on whatever market you are. If you get low oil, then of course things can get to the market. But again, on the other side, on the other hand, inflation is a fear. There's a fear of inflation. But again, we're looking at the Fed tools, which is talking about, I think it's about 97% now probability that there will be a rates cut. And with the rates cuts, that is good generally for the market. So this would drive what if you want to look at let's start off with small caps, really. You can see small caps are actually been very bullish in expectance of a rates cut. So one thing we've got to always understand is that the market is always forward looking. So while you might think, you want to start buying your small caps when the rate cuts has happened, that you probably will be a bit late. That's you selling the news. So you want to be, oh God, sorry, more people are coming in. Okay, so you want to be able to, how do I say, sell the facts, basically, buy the rumor. So you almost getting late to buying it now, but I wouldn't say late, except you get a blow off top. But that's another one there with the rates cut rumor. Again, there's another one there with the S&P. So if you look at S&P, or let's just look at SPY actually. So if you look at SPY is consistently on a tear after the disaster we had in April, which has been right there. Sorry, my screen is not as big as I would like it. So okay, so after the consistent fear we had, SPY has been on a just consistent breakout, and it just keeps pushing, hitting all-time highs. I think of course, we don't want to be in a shorting market. This is not a shorting market at all, because if you're shorting this market, then of course you've got bad news waiting for you. So again, you don't want to be shorting this market because everything is pointing to just a high market. Yes, the market is not the economy. I think many people tend to think the fact that the market is up, that means the economy is doing well. No, so the market is not the economy. So which is why the fact that the market is up does not mean the economy is doing well. In fact, what happens is that the market actually leads while the economy lags. So what happens today is what happens in the economy eventually later. But the economy is telling you that things are slowing down. And I think at some point, often markets will lead, the economy will lead, and that's when you get the print which comes out on a weekly basis. But most of the time, the market is not the economy, and the economy will lead. So, what are a few things we have been doing? I think so. I've just talked about the state of the market, kind of touch a bit on the macros, and I've just talked about the slowdown in the economy. How do I know there's a slowdown in the economy? Key things I look at, for example, I look at gold. So, what you get at this point is, look, I just literally just put this there, not because I wanted to short it or anything. It was just a marker. Now, if you look at gold is literally pushing all-time high. I think it was last week or so, or 2 weeks ago, someone asked when gold was about 3426, what should we do with gold? And I just said, look, I'm expecting 3,500 level. Now gold went and shot to 3,600 and pushed beyond it. So that's one thing you've got to be wary of. This is telling you of a slowdown in the market at some point because there's inflation fears, because you're killing the dollars, gold is going up, Bitcoin, which is there you go. I mean, I think I can't remember what analysis I performed this morning. Bitcoin is on another tier as well. Still quite an inch off all-time high. Not, it's come down about $12,000, but it's again, everything is pushing all-time high. So you are looking at a case of stagflation where everything is just keeps pushing away. But what do? We as investors and traders, our job is to react to this market. So again, how do we react? We don't do after the fact, we follow the money. A few things I did mention about, I'm trying to keep this meeting short, by the way, okay? One thing I'm always insistent on is, number one, we create a system. If you do not have a system for your trading or your investing, then you're doing it wrong, okay? Don't wake up in the morning, what do we buy now? That's not how to do it. And even if that's what you do, of course, you've got to be able to monitor a few things. Don't just jump in. Don't test the depth of the water with 2 feet. That's number one. Another one is I talk about, I think majority of us, we do trade with leverage. One thing about leverage is that it's a two-edged sword. Of course, we know the same level of, the same level of the same way it goes up aggression, it goes up. It's the same aggression, it goes down. So one thing you've got to understand is that, and one thing I think my mentor told me many years ago is that leverage is not a right, okay? It's a privilege. So take it as a privilege. So, I constantly talk about the 80-20 rule, okay? Look, if you go the same, and I know it kind of works. Look, if you get results in this market, anyone gets results in this market. Why? Because it's a bullish market. Everything goes up. I think they call it dash for trash at some point. Anything will go up. They lose their earnings, it goes up. They beat earnings, it goes up. It's just a dash for trash at the moment sometimes. So you got to be careful. And the fact that everything goes up does not mean it's always going to be going up all the time. I think someone asked me a while back, oh, why is the market down? I said, market doesn't need a reason to be down. And that's one thing. And you could see traces of that in some cases. I think bull is one of them. For example, if you look at bull actually, which I want to talk about here. I was speaking to someone today and I said, I think bull is actually a bad company. Not a bad company, I'm talking about the stock. And, I couldn't really tell the reason why, but Bull actually came in. Bull came in as a SPAC, okay? Bull came in as a SPAC. I'm not going to go into the detail about special purpose acquisition companies. Bull came in as a SPAC. That's just bad. SPACs have got bad rep anyway. We're talking about 5 years ago where we're all in the market. So Bull came into the market as a SPAC, no matter how great it is. So you'd expect a few of those things to few nigglings anyway on the way. before you can eventually start looking for value with bull. So that's one thing I saw. Also, we realized that, our commodities, oil has been weakening, which we saw that. It's actually funny. I put something here, actually. Yeah, this was around here. Oh, I can't remember when I did it. Okay, sorry. I was speaking to someone about how oil has been on a 3-year downtrend, and I just looked at it and I actually thought, this is actually interesting, actually. Yes, beside the fact that it beats, oil has actually been on a consistent 3-year downtrend. But if you're going to actually stretch it a bit further now, you can actually see. So, going from 2022, oil has actually been down, so it's a consistent downtrend. Yes, we're not predicting that oil is going to go back to 200 or all-time high, but I think we are studying relationships. We look at pattern. And one thing about oil that it did I wouldn't say amazed me or anything, was just look at just, sometimes you just have to pull back and see. And one thing I saw right now is, oil broke the downtrend, the 3-year downtrend. So we're still within the consolidation, but yeah, so oil hasn't actually been something you should be bullish on. We're talking about very long term, of course, not the short intermediate. So again, that's just state of the markets with oil. I think we looked at cocoa as well as another soft commodity for us. So if you look at cocoa is definitely yeah, I mean, we were expecting what, 7,200. Cocoa is definitely on another downtrend as well. Would it hold? We don't know. I think this is actually quite subjective because um, many people look at okay. Many people look at this week's here, which is the bid. The market's just a bid point. So many people look at that. So I'm just hoping, let's see what holds at this base, okay? Which is why I said lower earlier on today. You could see here, there's been a call right here before. So now let's see if this is going to hold. But at any point in time, I'm expecting a big washout and then a reversal with cocoa. That's what I'm expecting. But again, we react, okay, on these things. We see what they do, and then we react accordingly, okay, while we monitor. So we don't just we're not gamblers, okay. We're not just buying. Well, elements of gambling involved, but again, we just wait to see what happens. The data which I get is actually closed, so I can't really pull out any data now at the moment. But again, if you just look at the raw candles, I think right now we're looking at the big support. Let's see what happens before anything else happens again. The next thing I was talking about is, yeah, speaking of position sizing as well. Personally, yes, I do leverage as any other person, but if you're investing and you're trading, I will still recommend, guys, please, no matter what you do, keep 80% in your cash, if that makes sense. Spot position, 20% should be your investing. This thing goes up and down. We don't know how tomorrow is going to be. We're just trying and we react based on the data we get. But sometimes we've got dark pools who don't show their hands. And then again, how do we fight these guys? And that's why we've got to be very, very careful. Another one is patience. We talk about patience all the time. You've got to be extremely patient. Be patient, let it come to you. Don't chase this market. There's nothing about this is the stock I want to buy. It's a great stock, except you want to invest for the long term. But if you're gonna trade it, you've got to be patient. Let it come to you. Otherwise, look, got 7,000 other companies. Again, you got to be in alignment with a healthy market. Look, as long as they help. I was speaking to someone a month ago who had a bad portfolio, and the good thing is this person is very liquid, and there are times where this person is up by a lot, and then there are times when this person is down by a lot. When the market is up, this person is up aggressively. When the market's down, this person is down twice. Some people's net worth, as you might think. One thing I did say is that your style will work in only one market, okay, and that's the up market. Yes, the market goes up more, but when it's brutal, like it happened in 2022, we all saw this. It was just very aggressively bad. So what you want to do is you want to take care of the down, or take care of the back. take care of the defense, be defensive. That's what I mean. Okay. So if you're defensive, then the forward will look after itself. I've got a girl who's in secondary school, and I tell my daughter, look, just ensure you're not getting negative points in school, and the positive will look after itself. We don't want any. We want to submit your homework early, do this the right way. And it's the same thing. As long as you look after your capital, you take care of it, you know there's always another day, then the profits will look after itself. It's just going to be very natural, and that's it. We did say, look, in terms of sometimes where do you think you want to go to? What positions should you trade? There are what you got to be able to do is look at the different industries in the market. Look, we've got the tech, for example. We've got the communications market. We've got the real estate. If you search each of them, don't just wake up and think we want to go into communications, for example. Okay. And if at all, more importantly, it's best to search the top. If you look at the top trades, S&P 500, for example, the top. I know someone who just picks literally top 40, and it's just those baskets of stocks where he picks from. Because at the end of the day, if the leaders are leading, then everything else will be fine. Look, if Apple, Google, Amazon, um, Magnificent Seven now they call them. So, if these guys are up, then they will lift the entire market. So Apple has, definitely been able to reverse very well. Amazon has been able to reverse as well. I think all these guys are up. There you go. Look, that's Amazon pushing back all-time highs. Meta as well. I think Tesla's also behaved very well. If these guys are up generally, then of course that's telling you the state of the market. But if there's a weakness, general weakness among the top, that's a sign right there for you of topping out. But there's something I mentioned today with Hood, and I did say, I think someone told me to explain it actually. Hood came in and App came in as well. And I said, look, this is for me personally. I'm not saying sell it, but I'm saying this is a sign. And I'm not saying it's a sell the news means sell it immediately, or it means I'm just letting you know that there will be a bit of a weakness over time. Because if you look at a few companies that joined S&P, didn't actually do any further search since then. I think I mentioned CTD, great company, by the way, but you can see what happened right there. This company did lag for a while. I think, we have Tesla joined S&P. When Tesla joined, I think he joined about 220. He's actually since done very well. But if you notice, it's like, I don't want to call it the cost of S&P, but it's just the cost, it's so it's still around, yeah, I think it was before 2024. Yeah, I can't remember what exactly, but you can see it's just been like it's hanging, for in the doldrum for a few years. Look, XYZ as well. We just remember that actually XYZ joined this year. And where has it been? Just hanging again. So, um, Palantir as well, definitely. Palantir, that's another one. Since Palantir joined in, what's it been doing? Yes, it's been able to perform extremely well, but look, struggling to break 160. And that's another thing. So there's a weakness generally. So now with Hood, which joined in today, am I saying it's going to come to zero? Of course not. I'm just saying when these things happen, you've got to be wary. So a lot of people might think, yeah, this is the time to buy it now and it's going to go to 200. Hey, I don't know, but I'm just telling you what I see, and that's it. So that's just me. Absolutely. IBKR. Let's look at IBKR actually. That was added on my birthday. I remember that, 14th of July. Look at that. So if you're gonna just stretch it out, 14th of July this year, where is July? That's July. There you go. So look, it got jumped on 14th around this point, 16th. So it jumped, added, and since then, all you notice is a weakness. It's just whatever you do, you just put a line there. Oh, that's a bit too thick, but that's fine. Anyway, but as you can see, IBKR joined S&P, and then the weakness just came in. So these are the things you are saying. So, and I'm not saying it's going to be consistently weak. but it just topped out. But again, it's a bit of a arsenal in your lessons, and you can or in your store, and you can just have a look and see how app performed, and likewise, what's the name, hold over time. And I'm just saying there will be an initial weakness before they proceed. So a few other things I talk about. A few other things I wanted to mention. I think we all tend to have a few strategies, okay? Something I tend to do, discuss a few strategies here, is, yes, I keep saying of course, the easiest, the best strategy is your huge, support and resistance, really. Look, you can learn that from anyone. Okay, let me just clear this thing. If you're able to get your levels in, but what you notice is that, look, someone mentioned IBKR, so it just seems to be a perfect example. So it wasn't something I was even noticing at all before. Let me put it on a 3-day. And what you notice, you actually wanted to get in around this support level, but there's a good news here, because it did what they call, this is a perfect trade. Okay, this is where most people tend to take a loss. Okay, so it came in here, came back in here. The minute it came down here, you might think, oh, it's time to get out, but that's actually a great amount. Okay, a great level, and that's exactly the same thing it did. And I'm not saying it will come down, but look, flip the chart upside down, and that's exactly what we're seeing. Up here, back up, and if it breaks this, that'll be a great short, okay? Because what you're seeing right here, not exact same proportion, it's exactly what you're seeing here. Different proportions, but same thing, flipping it, and that's what you get. I think, just remembered I was looking at GTLB. Somebody mentioned GTLB in the group today, and I thought, well, let's have a look. They did the exact same thing, literally just they did an undercut. Okay, so you can see this person was wanting to get in. It was more of a day. Let's see, Mr. Grateful. I don't know his name. You can see, so you can say that's your support level. It doesn't matter, guys. It's just, support is a range. I always say that. But if you put in, what you notice is, okay, it didn't exactly do it, but it did. Yeah, okay. Let me get rid of it. So this is support line. This is a support line, but who would have done that? What you would have done is, this would have been a support line right there and there. But what it did was, it did undercut it. It did undercut it right here. And of course, it might eventually move. And that's what it did. So there's a few things right there, but you could actually see, but which I think what's the lesson here is, just look out, zoom out, zoom out. Don't be in a hurry. Don't be in a hurry. You're not here to lose money. You're here to make money, but the money will be made. If you zoom out a day, two, maybe, it's better for you. You can see that right here. It goes up, and learn to take profit. Look, I'm not going to mention names, but I know some people have had thousands of percentage in profits, and they've just lost it as well. Because if you eventually look at your GitLab, what's it done in the last few years? It hasn't gone anywhere. GitLab hasn't gone anywhere. Look, this is 2012, and right here is 2025. So where is my line? Sorry, bear with me. There you go. So all the way, sorry, over how long? From 16th August to, well, let's take it back a bit. You should tell me how many days. Yep. So it hasn't gone anywhere, all this duration. So, sometimes you might just accept, you think you're a trader, whether you're trading options or you're trading CFDs, you're losing money every day. So sometimes it's not about, your job is not to catch the top. Your job is not to catch the bottom. Get in, get something, lock that profit in, and move. Tomorrow is another day. Another stock is another opportunity. I think other things I tend to look at. Yes, I did talk about oil earlier on, but when I look my trend. I prefer when my trend is not sideways, I try not to get in. So I prefer the sideways in. But if it's giving me downtrend, I think it's bad news. Yes, I do know when to, well, I think over experience, I do know when to buy in and then just, just take in for a reverse. That's not the matter here. But again, I prefer when it's sideways, showing this consolidation, and then before he eventually moves in. So I think so. A few things I've just discussed. I know I'm talking a bit fast. Talked about the false breakout. If especially, oh, absolutely, I do love. Yes, please. You've got to add fundamental analysis, which is something you've just mentioned there. So let's just go back to let me pick any stock at all. I think was it last week Okay, I mentioned this stock, which I bought and kind of felt like it was a good timing. Um, it was 28th of July. So fundamentals wasn't great, to be honest. Fundamentals wasn't great. It's so I bought this off the back of Shopify. So I thought, okay, Shopify is the leader. The leader's taken, then of course, when the leaders top, what people tend to do is they back out of the leaders and then they put the money onto the center on this onto the I forgot what they call it now. Anyway, they put the money onto the other ones, on the smaller leaders. Not exactly leaders. There's a word which skipped me now. Okay, so that's the fundamental. Shopify has been, it's been on a tear, and at some point, it's a leader. It's topping out. So because
The Southeast one.
I just muted her. Okay, because Shopify is topped out at some point, we just, I knew this is the time to back off the leader, go to the next leader. But you've got to be careful. If you're buying a stock with a very tiny market cap, then of course you do yourself a disservice. I know a few people who do that. You've got to be careful. You're just gambling yourself away because this thing would always work when you're in an up market. When you're down market, then of course at some point it will catch up with you. So yes, absolutely, you are right. One thing we've got to understand is earnings move market. I think some of you know how to play your earnings very well. It works with you. If I'm not very good at gambling, so and of course you could straddle it with options. Yes, iron condor, butterfly, etc. But I just don't prefer that at all. I think long term, I know what works for me. And again, and that's something which I say: listen to everybody, but then listen to nobody. Whatever works for you, please, no matter what it is, just follow it. I'm not much of a scalper, even if at all. I've done scalping game before. Now, I'm an old man. I'm too old, and I just leave that alone. And I think the final thing I wanted to talk about was especially when you are looking at things, because I'm gonna chip this in, especially for the sake of the people who want to get into, not just who prefer short-term trades. Okay, if yesterday is down, guys, don't expect today to. If your stock opens and did not break yesterday's high, then of course you're doing yourself a. So this is your stock. Okay, this is yesterday's down. Okay, if your stock opens below this price, which is below yesterday's key level, then of course don't expect yourself, don't be buying it. Not yet. There's no strength, which is why you hear me a lot of time. I say wait for strength, wait for strength. So it did not, if it opens below yesterday's level, you're still bearish. Okay, so wait for some strength, let it build up. Okay, and when it builds up, so remember it's on a daily time frame, or D1. But if it's able to build over yesterday's level, then of course this is a buy. So this is a long, this is a short. Very simple. So this is a short because below yesterday's level. This is a buy yesterday because it's above yesterday's level. And that's all I thought I should, just chip in there, just chip in a few bits here that we are doing, and I hope we're doing it right. Again, so we've got quite a few of us in the group. What you've got to understand is you've got to create a system. As bad as it is, the market's not always going to keep going forever. Please, no matter what, have your long-term positions. For me, I'm here to build something for my children. And that's what it's all about for me. Yes, I'm happy to trade as well. Yeah, I do trade because I think nobody knows what they're doing, but I think I'm getting results. That's all I'm going to say. And I think majority are getting results. Don't try to revenge trade. If it goes against you, please, it's fine. There's always another one tomorrow. I think there was a long I wanted to do. I did a short. Fat fingers happen. Again, you take it on the chin, you keep it moving. These things do happen. Happens to anyone, happens to the best of us. Do not try to oversize except you got enough to defend it. You don't want to keep losing. Be on the line with the markets, and it's not personal. When you lose money, it's not personal. Get it and keep it moving. Oh, finally, this is actually important because we've been looking at this for a while. GBP USD. So on the Forex side, I was telling someone this just means that UK, I think that was the level I got in, I think. So, I called it for a long here. Okay. I looked at this last week and this is what I did again. As you can see, I was expecting this thing, and that's when we had a gentle reversal last week, and then it built again today. And what do you notice? Same level right now. So if this thing builds, I expect a little reversal around 0.37, but we shall see. But GU has been extremely strong, and this just tells us that, I'm sorry, we're broke in the UK because people are putting money away, holding the cash instead of putting money in the market. Yes, but on the back of the dollar coming down, of course, you expect other currencies which is paired against them to keep going up. So I've just talked about a few things that we are doing. We talk about the Forex now. So if you're still down on this one, you're currently underwater. GU is sorry, the dollar is down. There's not a lot you can do. The more the dollar goes, the more patience you've got to have for this. Look, it's not going to go forever. At some point, it will relax. If you have not oversized, then you're good. Likewise, oil. Where do I expect oil to be now? I'm not saying a great. So that I've spoken anything technical. So anything macro. So let's just remove the drawing. So, oil is a day-to-day basis. That's what we look at. And that's it right here. So, there's general downtrend, but again, we can see a little bit of a, support right here. So let's see if oil waits, and then we'll see if we can get a bounce or, but like I said, again, I'm still expecting that 70 to be tested. And that's what I think it will be eventually. But let's say what macro comes out. Macro tends to control these things by a lot. No matter how great your setup is, if people are buying and people are buying, if the macros are bad, they can destroy literally your setup. That's one thing you've got to understand. So I personally don't think I was wrong with oil. I really think I was right with that, with oil. I'm still holding, but again, I sizing accordingly. I haven't oversized it at all. And with this market, you can tell sometimes you don't see the president in charge, but sometimes it just comes out and it just ruins every setups. And that's what happens. So anyway, just thought I should talk about a few things that we have been doing. Generally, look, as a group, your game is your game. If people are playing earnings and it's not your forte, it's not your strength, you don't have to play with them. Stay out. Look, it's fun. Let them enjoy it. Some people have made a lot more money, and they're just playing with some of their profit. They have a strategy that works for them. Look, it's fine. I have a friend who would not hold anything overnight because he says he's not an investor. I thought just holding one day overnight. He said, no, I can't. He took a 250K loss on a position once. So people are different, okay? Just do what works for you, play your game, and if you're struggling again, we've got the group, just ask for help, okay? Not just me. I think there's quite a lot of people who are going to be finding their footing, and that's just what I thought we should discuss tonight, really, and keep it moving, guys. So thank you. Some of you came in very late, but thanks, people. Have a good night. Or actually, do we have any questions if you want me to look at anything? No. Okay. On that note, thanks everybody, and shall see you in the group. Take care. Bye-bye.